Hello, everyone. I'm Melissa Arrighi, and I'm the host of Truth Be Told, a show that we started to just try and do more outreach to the residents and the public. The first thing I want to mention is we didn't have a show last week. I was away, so you were able to watch 2 weeks worth of a Truth Be Told with Kelsey Casey, who is the new library director. And I just want to say right here on Truth Be Told, I did call her Chelsea at first, so I take that back. It's Kelsey Casey, and I'm glad you had an opportunity to see her on the show over the last couple of weeks. But today I'm delighted to say that we have Police Chief Michael Botieri with us. It's just going to be the two of us talking a little bit about the police department over the last 30-something years that Mike has been with us. And I'm going to say it's going to be a really arresting show, which I think is awful, but I had to at least throw it out there.
I didn't know we were doing comedy. Okay.
Yeah. Well, of course, if it's going to be you and I on the show, particularly with you, I have to admit you are the most fun department head we have.
Oh, geez, you're gonna hear from everyone else on that.
Oh, I'm sure. So man of the hour, a man of the half an hour on Truth Be Told. Here is Mike Botieri. Hi, Mike. Welcome.
Hi, how are you?
So first thing I want to talk about is your career path as you have come up through the department. I mean, it's like the perfect story of a huge town, a police department that has grown and grown, and you starting out right as a patrolman. How many years ago?
So coming up on 36 years.
36 years. Wow, you were here the same amount of time as Pam Hagler. Also worked here, I think, that amount of years. That's pretty amazing to put in that much time with one community. Give us a little quick progression of your career.
So I was hired back in September 1985. I went to the academy. Back then, the academy was 11 weeks, I believe. And I graduated somewhere around December of 1985. I was the patrolman for about 4 years. In 1989, I was promoted to sergeant. I was a patrol supervisor for the next 7 years. And then in 1996, the department increased the captains by 1. So they had 1, and they added 1 through a BJA grant where they hired 15 positions for the town of Plymouth, and they had to adjust with some rank, and they put a captain in. So I was lucky enough to be promoted from sergeant to captain in 1996.
That's quick.
From 96 to now. So in the 36 years, I've had 25 of those years have been either chief or captain. And then in 2008, Chief Pomeroy left, and he was a long-standing chief. 16 years he was the chief here. And then I was promoted in November of 2008 to a permanent chief's position, and I am the 8th permanent chief that Plymouth's had. The
8th permanent chief? Oh, I didn't know that little fact. Well, you know I have to do this to you, which is why I asked for the picture. We've got to show you as a sergeant in 1989. So I'm going to see if we can pull that out. Wow. I have to tell you, I love some of these old pictures that we're using on the show. And right before we started, I asked you, is there a gallery that people can look at to see all old Plymouth Police pictures throughout the years?
Yeah, on our website, PlymouthPolice.com, you'll be able to find, there's a photo section. And we have a lot of old photos of the department, of the officers back then, of parades. And I actually have a kind of a collection of them in my conference room as well. So yeah, the public has access to those, and I would encourage them to take a look.
You know what I'm looking forward to? We haven't done enough of that over this side, but Tiffany Park in our office has been working on those selectmen pictures throughout the years and finding 1 or 2 conference rooms to display them throughout town hall. And I can't wait because I showed one when we had Dickie and Ken, Chairman Tavares and Selectman Quintal on the show a couple of weeks ago, and they're just fun.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
I want to talk a little bit about the complexity of policing now. And I know you are super active with the Chiefs Association, I think just the one in Massachusetts. Talk to me a little bit about the changes through the years and most importantly, or more specifically, what we're seeing now.
Yeah, so it's been a difficult year in a lot of ways, not just the pandemic for everyone, but if you add, the injustice that we've seen throughout the country and the change in policing and reform. I will say the Massachusetts Chiefs have been pushing for a more accountable system for years. And I've been on and I'm still a sitting member of the Municipal Police Training Committee, which is a Governor Baker appointment, and I represent Southeast, about 120 communities in Southern Mass. And at those meetings, we will decide what the standard of training will be each year, what in-service will be, what we think is most important, and we mandate that training throughout the Commonwealth. But there's never been an actual consequence ever. And Massachusetts is one of, I think, only 4, and probably only 3 left now, one of only 4 states that don't have a post, which is either police or peace officers standards of training. And this post would have the ability to certify and decertify officers based on a myriad of things, to include their behavior, their demeanor, discipline, not keeping up with training. So until now, a chief it would be on the chief to make sure everyone's trained to a certain degree. And if they were not, you would never know until there was a lawsuit. You'd have to defend it. So a post is something that Mass Chiefs has wanted for a long time. We have wanted for a long time. It'll be a commission set up in July of 2021. The commission will be a 9-board commission, three representatives of the police officers, and the rest civilians. So in some ways, it's a civilian board. We were hoping for more representation on that board. The truth is, there's probably around 30 commissions in the Commonwealth, and they're all predominantly led by people in the field. So it's a little bit different, and we're a little bit worried about that. But the reform went through. We had a little bit of input into it. It's not perfect, but we've always wanted it. We want transparency. We want the ability to be certified and decertified, and we want that. And we want to contribute to the national database as far as what police officers are doing, why they continue to work.
Now, under you, Mike, as chief, you initiated the whole accreditation process. Maybe not well ahead of every other community, but certainly in the lead.
Yeah, there aren't a lot of communities. When you figure there's 351 cities and towns in Massachusetts, probably a third of them are actively seeking certification or accreditation. Certification is a level that we reached, and you were involved in that just prior to getting full accreditation. And it means that we're following the best practices throughout the Commonwealth that are identified in policing. So we're really proud of that. And I know that you supported it, and you came to the ceremony when we were able to get that about a year ago. And every few years we have to recertify, and we have to keep up to date. And we're making a lot of changes right now through the reform bill to make sure that we stay certified in that area. But I think it's important for a police department to be accredited.
I don't think that the average resident has any idea about both the complexity of your department, the day-to-day operations of what the patrolmen do in covering this geographical area. And if we have an opportunity, I'd just like you to walk through the organizational chart. You provided it to me so I can have them pull up on the screen, but people only have to take a look at this at home to see what a really massive department it is. And while you're kind of talking a little bit about not just the specialty units and how your department is set up, but also how do you cover wise all the geographical areas in this town?
Yeah, so I'll start by saying it's obviously difficult to do because of the size of the community, the different issues we have. We have a courthouse, we had a nuclear plant, we have a waterfront, 36 miles of waterfront. We have a downtown area, a lot of tourism. We have a hospital. When you really lay it all out, we have a lot. We have an airport, although it's a small airport, we have an airport. So we have a prison. So really in our community, we have a lot of different considerations. And then you have the 103 square miles, whatever the size is. So that's why over the last several years, I've been working really hard with you, with the support of the Advisory and Finance Committee, the Board of Selectmen, and then ultimately town meeting to increase the department to get to a point where we can staff. So what the bottom line in policing is that when someone calls 911, we need to be there in a timely manner. That's really, in a nutshell, that's what we're supposed to do. Everything else that you can do above and beyond that is really, it's auxiliary, it's extra stuff, and we want to do that. It's policing and community policing and bicycle offices and supporting the citizens and those type of things.
School resource officers, that's a big one.
School resource officers. So over the years, we've done that, and we've built up a support and a relationship. We're big, and we have been big on partnerships with different community groups, partnerships with neighborhood watch groups, partnerships with BID Hospital, where we meet monthly on security issues, and we have for years, and the schools with 4 committed school resource officers that work every day in 4 of the schools. That's their job Monday through Friday. So in order to really police that big of an area, you need a lot of people. So we had learned early on through the International Association of Chiefs of Police and different articles and different subject matter experts that we needed to be around that 120, 130 mark. And we've been shooting for 128. So in my time as chief for the last 12 years, we had 100 when I became chief. So we've gone up 28 officers. So I'm proud of that. But it only happened through the support of, started with you and then right up the line to get where we are. So at the point we are now, we can have and schedule enough officers where And you need to have a gap. And I've always said this, you can't just have a scheduled number of officers if anyone's out covering overtime. You just can't keep throwing money at those type of problems, or the budget just goes out of control. So if you can build to a point where you have extra officers and 3 or 4 can take a benefit day without affecting staffing, that's where you want to be. And that's where we are right now. That's where we are right now. We've been able to reduce the overtime budget because of that commitment. So not only do you get a reduction in overtime, most days everyone comes in, or most people come in, you get an increase in actual visibility of police. It's a win-win for us. So we've been able to do that. And the department has had a captain in charge of administration and a captain in charge of operations for many years, since 1996, when I was made that second captain. So as you know, we went in front of the Board of Selectmen last week, and we asked to increase the command staff level to include a third captain. The reason we did that is the police department with 128 officers needs either 3 or 4 high command level positions plus the chief, whether it's deputy chief or captain or whatever. We've had that need for a while, and we've been working towards that. This reform bill that has been signed by the governor and pushed forward really highlights how critical it is to have that position. And the Board of Selectmen, and through your support, allowing me to bring it to the board, recognize that. So we're going to be able to now break the department down a little bit further for accountability and have an actual professional standards division where the captain will take care of that, as well as other duties, and make sure the policies, the procedures, the rules, the regulations are up to date. Accreditation, certification is all up to date. Every officer's training is up to date, or they'll be decertified and not be able to be a law enforcement officer. So there's going to be a lot to that, internal affairs and all of those things. So that's kind of the breakdown where we're at now. I'll
tell you what, so under the charter, the select board has to approve any reorganization. And even though this wasn't a massive reorganization, in my time here, the select board have supported everyone that I brought forward to them. This was more minor in terms of structure and staffing that had to be moved, but it's such an important one. I mean, just as I look at that organizational chart, you can see all those different functions and duties and requirements and level of responsibility that's going to fall under that. I guess I can call it a division. So I think it's a great glad that it was supported, and we're going to try and put that in place in the next couple months, Mike.
Yeah, we have an active captains list and lieutenants list. We're going to call those lists, and then we'll conduct you'll collect interviews probably with a couple of people from here, and then we'll make some decisions and move on. So
when it comes to the Plymouth residents or future residents, people that want to come to the community, can you tell us a little bit about crime, just statistics of crime throughout our community, where they fall, where you're the most active?
Sure. I mean, there have been times where we've been in the top 20 or 25 as far as safest communities when you look at different articles in different areas. When you look at statistics, we've seen a little bit of an increase last year. Last year, meaning the entire year of 2020, comparing to the entire year of 2019, we saw some increases, 20–30% in specific areas like shoplifting, break and entering into motor vehicles. Those type of kind of quality of life crimes where some of those are crimes of opportunity. We look at the breaking into motor vehicles as a crime of opportunity because most of the time people aren't going to break a window to get into the vehicle unless they see something like a laptop computer on that you leave out. So if you don't leave anything out, people won't break in. And most of the time they just check the door, and if it's open, they'll go in. So, we can minimize those by just educating the public and those type of things. So.
One of the things that you and I have talked about is the day-to-day life of a patrolman. There is so much scrutiny, and you mentioned it a little bit earlier. There's so much scrutiny on them now. We've talked about, should we try body cam? Should we not try them? What is the future of policing? Why are we losing some of our patrolmen to either go to state police, or you and I have even seen they switch over to the fire department?
Yep. Yeah.
One of the things I think that's going to be important is communities who used to be able to hire patrolmen very easily. I mean, I remember, I'm of the age, and you might remember, that list was so long, it was difficult to get on the police department. Most recently, you've come to me and said, Melissa, there is really not many people on the active list at all. Does your Chiefs Association talk about how we can change that recruiting, how we can make the job more of an incentive now to come join us and do that function?
Yeah, unfortunately, that's true. I mean, there were thousands of people on the list. Right now, we've exhausted the residency list for people on the list for Plymouth through the civil service. There is no one else. There were no other residents in Plymouth on that list. So it makes it more difficult. We have to wait for another list. It's a difficult time to go into policing. You know, we thank the recruits every day when they go to the academy saying, look, you're stepping into a position here that's going to be difficult. Officers that have been here a while are second guessing what they're doing. You know, we totally get transparency. We totally get accountability, and we want certification and decertification, but we don't want it to be at the expense of officers second guessing what they're doing. So it's a real difficult task for us to, and it's a challenge to talk to these new officers about. They're excited about being here, and they're hearing that they have to be very careful of everything they do. Right. We don't have body cameras yet. Body cameras will be mandated in the future. It's something, there's actually a commission that they put together to look into body cameras as part of the reform. So they have different committees and commissions that are going to look at those type of things. So it's difficult to recruit people. It's difficult to transfer people in. I know even the state police, you probably needed to get somewhere around a 98 or a 99 to be considered in any, and they're well in the 80s right now and continuing down to fill a class they have right now. So it is difficult. It really is just difficult.
Unbelievable how much it has changed. But I want to remind everybody, there's also this really great side to policing, I think particularly in Plymouth. I mean, the special events that we do, you mentioned the tourism, the school resource officers. I know that you work closely with the Sheriff's Department and some of the things that you've been able to do together. I forget the acronym, Mike. The South Shore Regional, you know, the group that you work with all the other communities.
It's actually called Metro Law Enforcement Council. It's a Metro group. They're all over the state. We belong to the Metro Law Enforcement Council.
And they will come and assist at different larger events. I mean, we know how much planning that you were doing for the 400th event. Yeah, Fortunately, it did not occur, but we were absolutely ready to go for those. I want to pull up another picture because I can't function this was at, but this is actually a picture of you and my mother. I think I brought her to.
Oh, it is.
Was it one of the fall events on the waterfront?
Yeah, that's me on the left. Yeah, I think we were at one of the parades. It might have been Thanksgiving Day parade or 4th of July. Well, probably not 4th of July, probably Thanksgiving.
I'm sorry, did you just say that's you on the left?
It is, isn't it? Well, from the way I'm looking at it, yeah.
Yeah, well, you know, I'm hoping that people can just look at that and figure out which one is my mother. But
I was trying a little comedy back at you, you know.
Right.
Yeah, we've had some great events downtown, and officers love working those events. And there's a lot of behind the scenes work that's done. You know, one of the things that came out of the marathon bombing was a lot. It wasn't that you needed more money and you needed more police. You needed to be more visible. And small things like any event you see us on now, we're wearing those green fluorescent vests. So at a parade, you should be able to look down the street and see them every other block or every block, and you can immediately see that you have, you know, police presence. Very small thing to do to increase the visibility. So we've done, and there's a lot of behind the scene things that happen with the fire department and Brewster Ambulance and DPW, and we're prepared to respond to something that happens really serious, whether it's a predetermined location for med flight to come in. When you look at the Boston Marathon, I think we all know where we were when it happened. And when you think back, you remember in the first day, or first few hours, you heard 3 people were killed, or it ended up 3 or 4, but it was a small number. We all thought that number was going to rise, you know, probably 5-fold to 10, 15, 20 people. No one else died because they had a plan, and they knew that they didn't overwhelm any of their trauma hospitals. They knew they had 3 level 1 trauma hospitals within 2 miles. They knew not to send more to one that they couldn't handle. And that's why people lived. People lost limbs, but most of the time people lose limbs, you bleed, and you usually don't, very unlikely you're going to be successful and live. So that behind the scene plan works. So I kind of want people to know that while you just see the police pull up and we're there, there's a lot going on behind the scene. There's a command post with representatives. Metro Law Enforcement Council, you mentioned, is a consortium of 46 towns that share resources. We have a SWAT. I'm one of the control chiefs on that SWAT team. So if there's a call on any of those 46 towns, they'll call either me or another chief, and we'll decide if we're going to go, and then we'll go. There's no cost to that. The same thing with the 3rd of July. They'll send 25 bicycle officers. There's no cost to that. Right. It's all part of that collaboration of resources, and that really is regionalization is what's worked in the last few years.
Well, I know that it is so sophisticated now with the different units that you have, all the work that is done ahead of time before these events, everything that is going on during. You talked about the identifying, but you also have people that aren't necessarily in uniform or easily identified that are just working their way through the crowds, but that do represent your department. And Mike, one of the things that I love that you've done as chief is you've actually gone back to some of the old walking beats when you have enough officers on to do that. I know that you've done it in the downtown area.
Yeah, so we've done a lot of areas. We have a community policing walk we do in Algonquin. We'll do it at different areas with the bicycles, but the actual walking beats are downtown. And this past summer, because we had the one-way street and all of the dining in the parking areas, which I thought was phenomenal and it really went well, we added a second walking beat just for visibility, and it really does help. We get a lot of good feedback from it. Especially the walking beat and the bicycles. We get a lot of feedback on the bicycles because they're visible and they just can shoot around and they get to a lot of different areas that most cruisers just can't get. And you're closer to the public. That interaction with the public, the engagement with the public, which is 21st century policing, trust and legitimacy of police department. People need to trust that we're going to do the right thing. The only way to really trust someone is to meet them and have a relationship and have some type of partnership with them. So we get a lot out of the bicycles and a lot out of the walking beats.
Well, I think that people are really happy with our Plymouth Police Department. And certainly I'm proud of the fact that we've grown through the years to close to the numbers that we need to be at, but we know we can't put that behind us. We know that's going to continue to change and evolve. And I think we're really equipped to do that. So it's great. I'm psyched you could be here with me today as we wind down the show.
We're winding down the show?
I know. I hate to lose you already.
It hasn't been 30 minutes.
It goes by really quickly.
It does.
Please, you are totally not off the hook yet. So the last few minutes of the show, I do a spotlight, a 60-20 spotlight on a variety of things, whether it's a rumor out there or whether it's some news that I want to get out there. And this time it's strictly about you and what your plans are and what you could be planning for the future of the department and for your future. And I'd love you to talk a little bit about that here on the show. Well,
I think I talked a little bit about the future of the department. I think we're in great hands. We have some really qualified people in the right positions, and I'm sure you'll have quite a group of people to choose from to put on that third captain, create a different command staff, and then replace me when I leave. So I think the department, I'm really proud the department's in the shape it is. So I want to always leave it better than when you got here. So I feel like we've added all the specialty positions. The officers are really engaged and really feel that there are different things they could do in their careers. So that's important to me. Myself, I'm planning on retiring in the next month, maybe 2 at the most. So I'll be gone by the summer for sure. And I'm planning on moving on to doing other things. And some of my plans are with a company that's going to be, training throughout the country, kind of a Homeland Security company that does training throughout the United States. And part of that training will be the Plymouth County Outreach Collaboration Program initiative that we created, that we did with all the chiefs, all 27 chiefs and sheriff and the DA. We've created that as a model, and we're trying to spread that out and we think we can save lives all throughout the country by just creating that collaboration. And the big key to that is knocking down those barriers and having law enforcement collaborate with public health and collaborate with schools and with courts. And I think it's that team and partnership that really makes it work and makes it happen. So I'm really happy about making that move. It's bittersweet. I'll miss it. I mean, I've been doing it my whole life, so it'll be difficult. But in some ways, I'm kind of the last man standing in the old timers, and everyone else here is just, I've probably been involved in hiring almost everybody here, or I've definitely been involved in promoting almost everyone here the last 25 years. So I'll definitely miss it. I'll miss my interactions with you. Right. Well, we certainly have had some fun, some ups and downs. I'm so happy for you, but it's not just you announcing that you're retiring. I think that anybody can expect after 36 years that would be coming at some point, and you will be incredibly missed, Mike. And I think you know that. But I'm really proud of Plymouth and your involvement, your absolutely key involvement as one of the very key people that were able to do this collaboration. I mean, this went all the way to getting the attention of Washington, D.C. with how you address the opioid crisis, how you were going to deal with families, how you were going to deal with people that are seeking help and don't know how to do that. So, I mean, you skimmed through it quickly, but that's a show in and of itself, how amazing this is, this next step that you're taking. And
Am I going to be calling you Selectman Botieri at any time in the future? Are we leaving that on hold?
Oh, I've never really been asked a political question. Most people just kind of skirt those questions, but no, it's probably unlikely. But I am going to live in Plymouth. I am going to settle here, so I'm happy about that.
Well, good. Everybody will still be able to see you around. We know that you've moved full time to town right now.
That's right. I'm living full time right
downtown areas.
Yep.
So anyways, Mike, well, thank you so much for coming on Truth Be Told. I'm glad you were able to talk about the department and give us all that information. And maybe there isn't a Selectman Botieri in your future, but if there is, we're going to have you back on the show to let everybody know what that change of roles was like.
That'll be fun. That'll be fun.
All right.
All right. Thanks, Melissa.
Thank you, everybody. That is it for this Truth Be Told, and we'll look forward to seeing you next week. Thanks.